Haha.
House, sir. How about
Yeah.
you? Did you make it through airports and conventions, hotels, and then back home
Yeah.
with no COVID?
Let's start over because
Oh.
apparently I
No.
updated some drivers and we lost all of the audio for the first part of it.
No.
But I assume you guys can hear us now.
Welcome. I can redo it. I know my lines.
So yes, we have sound for both of us. Okay, so hello everybody. Welcome to the Saturday morning D&D show. My name is Jordan. Our special post-COVID show, and by post-COVID I mean post-GenCon. But you were just talking about, Mr. Lucian, that you didn't get sick, and
Not.
I also didn't get sick.
Yes.
I had COVID about a month ago, and so the idea was that I probably. I hope that I still had some antibodies left in my system that were helping me out. But I did see a lot of people taking COVID tests afterward, which is smart. And then definitely a lot of people were catching it. And I did see Amy Vorpal, and she caught it, and I did walk past B. Dave Walters, and he caught it. But the circle
Vector.
of people that I mostly hung out with, of those that have taken tests, everybody's negative. So I guess I was pretty lucky, you know. So
Yeah. What about Ted? He'd be the one I would think.
I don't think he's done a
I haven't seen
test,
him.
but I haven't. Well, if he's done a test, he hasn't let me know about it. But yeah,
Yeah, I don't think his videos. He didn't look sick in any of his videos either.
So.
So yeah, I made it through somehow. Like I am COVID free. Like never had it free.
oh, there you go. Yeah,
So it's crazy. I thought for sure, even that, because I left midday, that mid part,
yeah,
and I thought, man, if I go back in and there's more people, and I was already thinking because my wife was gonna be mad that I was going to a convention, and I was gonna come back and she's gonna get sick and she's just gonna rub it in on me. And I was just like, I don't want to get her sick. I don't feel sick. I feel pretty good.
Yeah.
I did all the shopping and stuff, and I thought maybe I won't press my chances. And I came home. So, and I think, and I'm not an expert because other people will maybe in chat will know this. I think I'm past where we would have thought I would have had symptoms. So either I'm completely asymptomatic and don't know it, possible, or I just didn't catch it. So I think
you can. I mean, you could take a test, but I think, you would. You would have
zero
some symptoms,
nothing.
hopefully, especially for somebody who's never had it before. But
That's what I would have thought. So I think we're good. So I'm happy. I'm back. I'm loaded down with new games. I'm excited for all the RPGs I saw. It was insane seeing all the people hanging out. We got to hang out a ton. It was crazy cool.
Yeah.
Like, just what a couple of days of craziness.
yeah, we walked the floor a lot, which was fun,
A lot,
and we ran into somebody at the Monty Cook booth who listens to the podcast and stuff, and hangs out in our Discord.
Jeff, right?
I think it was Jeff, yeah. And he's like, I'm a total lurker, but he's like, so you probably won't recognize my like screen name or something. And I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. But like, that was fun. I forgot to give him merch though, so I felt really bad.
That's right. Yep.
And then, but yeah, we just like super walked the floor, and then we played that game of mazes, which was really fun.
We did play mazes. Yep.
And yeah, I don't know. It was a speedy Gen Con. Lots of stuff happening. I was very thankful for our hotel being so close that I took frequent naps around 3:00 when I ran out of steam, and then I could like get back up for dinner and go do more stuff afterwards. So
Yeah.
it was pretty cool.
I did like having that access, and it allowed me to really power house that the main event area because you could get breaks. And I think had we been out like we'd been before, kind of once you drive away, you're done. You're just thinking, well,
That's how I
we'll
always
do whatever
felt.
we're going to do next
Yeah.
week. We're done. So, but this felt like you could still go do stuff, and you could still go back over and get to see things. And I walked it all, and 26,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
Like it was just insane how much I went through that. And we did some speed runs, and then I did like really intricate slow, like when you were off doing, I think you were off maybe playing DCC or or you were at the movie thing, the movie screen.
Yeah,
like,
I went to
I
that
was
movie
going
screen.
like booth to booth to booth slowly, like just looking at everything. It was like
That's awesome.
so many good things, so much good stuff. So it was fun. I'm glad I went. I'm excited that it worked, and I'm ready to go again. I'm glad that most people followed the rules as far as I could see. It looked like a lot of people wearing masks. A lot of people, had their bands on, so they at least, showed their cards, and things were pretty good. Restaurant situation's still crazy around there. I found that to be a worse experience than normal.
Yeah.
But after post-COVID, but I think it's because they don't have a lot of people anymore. I saw a lot of places shut down in that downtown area that just weren't there.
There were, well, and if you think about it, like we didn't have a GenCon in 2020, and we didn't have a thing in 20, and I think a lot of these businesses make their money from GenCon. And so I was wondering, but yeah, one of the restaurants we like was closed down, and that was kind of sad. And then
sandwich place was great.
we went to a couple other places, and the air conditioning was broken, so they weren't allowing people to be at the bar necessarily because it was just like 100 degrees in there, and I was like, oh. Yeah. This is a live show, Moa Beach. And then we went to, but that PF Chang's was really good. That was really tasty.
I'm going to remember that place because that's where I'm going to go back to as my, all right, everything else has sucked. I'm going here so I know I can get something good.
Yeah, so Drunken Yoda, I did see a lot of people on Twitter talking about like no masks, like not a lot of people were wearing masks, but everyone in the convention center that I ran around with was very good about their mask. And not a lot of like under the chin or on the chin, like below the nose. Like people were pretty solid about it.
I have pictures. Like, I have proof.
Like the minute you left the convention center and the rules didn't apply, like 90% of people took off their masks. And,
me too.
And that's the problem with like you go to a restaurant, but you have to eat at a restaurant. Like we're not from there, and so it was kind of, I don't know. It was a tricky situation. I think it was handled the best it could, but it was also one of those like, I don't know if we should be doing this, but then I'm a patron who went to Gen Con, so I encouraged it. So I don't know, but I think we all want to get back to normal life, and it's that like hope of, well, let's just try. So, but we'll see.
And I think if you don't want the risk, you don't go at that point. So either you wait a year before you go if it's if you feel strongly about it, and that's great if you do. But if you don't and you're willing to go with the other people that are willing to take that risk, then we're going to be a bunch of people that said the risk is enough for us that we're okay with it, and we're all going to go. So I didn't feel too much guilt there. I didn't want to get my wife sick because I knew I was going to feel really bad if I came home and she got sick.
Yeah.
So I was like, we were trying to figure out quarantine and getting tests before I got home, and I was like all this stuff. But I was like, I don't have any symptoms. And she slept in our guest room for 2 nights just in case, but I never developed any symptoms, so...
No, that's smart.
We were mindful. We did what we could, but
I think
in the end, you gotta live.
I think I will, because I was planning on kind of going to PAX West as well. But I think I'm not going to do that because this was just a lot to take in, and it was like I might just do the one convention and then and we'll kind of call it.
It's a good
like,
start.
A lot of people were like, "Oh, you got to go to PAX Unplugged and things like that." I was like, "Well, it's a lot of people." It was kind of crazy. Maybe I'll take a break, but we'll see.
Wait, does Idaho have a big one? Do they have something?
Oh, well, they do not have. I mean, they have little conventions, but they don't have big
little
conventions.
Ones. I was saying because if there's a big enough one, I could come there, and that way you wouldn't have to travel very.
Oh yeah, there's no. Probably the biggest convention.
What's the biggest one you guys got? Yeah.
No. There's a Gem State comic convention, but it's not very big. But there is. Like, I feel like everybody goes to Portland to go to Rose City Comic Con, or they go to Seattle to go to Emerald City Comic Con or PAX, or you go to Salt Lake because there's that. And those are all within, like
driving
8 hours-ish. So
yeah. All right. I'm going to make one of those so you don't have to travel across the country for us to hook up.
Yeah. Drunken Yoda, actually, you make a good point. So there was an article where Gen Con's considering changing locations. Did you read about that?
I don't think that's newish, but I do think it's been in the works.
I found out at Gen Con that in 2019, they signed a 5-year contract with Indianapolis, but on the condition that Indianapolis would build more hotels closer to the convention center. And with the pandemic, I don't know the legality of what actually happened with that. But that plus a lot of these abortion laws that are kind of coming into effect. Gen Con was like, we are going to leave, or there's a possibility that they might. And then in my mind, I'm just like, oh my gosh, if you came to anywhere that wasn't like a 2 plane hop to get to, I would be so happy. Like Texas or Boston or Portland or all these places where it would just be the Twin Cities, like a lot of those things.
Any main hub, any main hub would be good. You need lots of hotels.
And I don't know I don't know the situation of I don't know what place would be better, other than I just am greedy and want something at a closer location. I think that would be fun, but but we got a lot to talk about. The first thing,
so many things,
is
like we heard stuff while we were there.
Wizards of the Coast has an announcement. It was just kind of a vague announcement. They have some hosts. All I know is Ginny D is one of the hosts.
They started dropping like Twitter messages all of a sudden.
And that is this upcoming Thursday, 8/18. And it's a combined Magic the Gathering. It's a Wizards whatever. So they're going to announce a bunch of stuff. But the fact that Ray Winnegar was tweeting about it means that there's going to be something specific to D&D. And I think he said it's like, this is something we've been working on for a long time, so we're finally excited to tell you about it. And it was like, oh, okay. There also, this morning I saw, was a new Amazon book on, or a new Wizards of the Coast book on Amazon Canada, but it is just a placeholder book with a release date of December 6th. And I think that will be Dragonlance, because they teased that Dragonlance was coming at the end of the year.
Yeah, we knew that was. Okay,
so that book specifically, I think, is this. What they're teasing, I have no idea. So
and I wouldn't count the Dragonlance or any announcement that we've had before as what is about to come. I feel like this is going to be new stuff than what has already been teased. The way Ray Winnegar was speaking in his Twitter.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, we can speculate all day, but I wonder if this, like, part of me, my first thought, and I'll just say this, was the playtest material for the next edition. They're going to start like, hey, we're going to have, because it is 2 years out between 2024, which is the 50th anniversary. And so it would make sense to start releasing little bits of playtest material, which could be a big thing. So I don't know.
I like the idea of being in on this upcoming playtest, because I did not do the D&D Next. I did not do anything for 4th edition. I certainly was barely into the game. Not barely. I was playing in 3.5, but I wasn't following the industry, right? I was just a player. I wasn't part of any, I'm trying to figure out what the company's going to do next and that kind of thing. So now I'm more interested to see like the next one, the next iteration of it is going to be cool, and being part of, a testing phase or a beta phase or that kind of thing.
It looks, this is, it's going to be one of those things where I think like we're hyping it up so much, and it's going to be like, we have, new Drist costumes, and you're going to be like, well, okay, but like what? I wonder, or like, they're going to be like, we have Boo hamster plushies. Like it'll be, I feel like it's going to be something dumb like that. Like I'm really excited for it, and then it's going to be,
it's going to be a letdown. Oh no.
It probably is a Magic the Gathering, crossover again. I would imagine maybe another Magic the Gathering setting, which is not a bad thing. But a lot of people are thinking that it is going to be the dates for the Dragonlance stuff, which I believe is going to be December 6th. And then I don't know, like probably just Magic the Gathering D&D crossovers. I know they want to do, I mean, the D&D movie's coming out, so that could be a big thing too. Like maybe an adventure based on the movie or something.
Now that the Comic-Con kind of announced the trailer and stuff, maybe they have more that they can start promoting of it. Maybe. I could see that. And I think they will touch on the things that are still there. So I think we will get some news about some of the things they've already announced. I so far am expecting, I could be let down, that there's going to be a bigger announcement of something that we haven't heard yet. That could be pretty exciting. I mean, it could be another video game. We knew they have a lot of studios at the moment they're working with to build video games.
It could be a video game.
A lot of people are talking about Baldur's Gate getting there.
I know they want Magic the Gathering Arena to go to PlayStation, Xbox, and possibly Switch. So I don't know anything about that, if they've been working on that. But boy, if you could get Magic the Gathering Arena on Switch, oh my God, like that would be very addicting. So. So we'll obviously talk about that next week when it's available. So our next show on the 20th, I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about.
Yeah, the 18th is Thursday.
Yep.
Did they say what time of day? Is it in the afternoon again, or is it? I forgot. I know it was there, but I forgot.
I just see August 18th, but
all right.
But I also can't read or write. Let's be honest.
Depending on what's going on and what time, maybe I could do a
9 a.m.
a reaction.
Pacific.
Oh. Well, okay, so that's noon for me.
It's going to be on everything. It's going to be on Twitch/Magic, Twitch/D&D, Twitch/D&D Beyond. It's going to be on YouTube/Magic the Gathering. And yeah, it looks like Jimmy D, and then I know Jimmy Wong is a big Magic the Gathering guy, and I don't know who Sydney Goodman is, but those are the three people doing it. And it looks like they're showing off. Well, this is a Magic the Gathering tweet, so they're showing off all the Magic the Gathering roadmap, the release schedule up to 2023.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough of that. Moving on. Cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria. Spelljammer's out in the wild. There are a bunch of review copies that are floating around. I saw the table of contents, but that's about it. I didn't watch Mr. Fry Minis. I didn't watch his flip through. I think Ted did a big long flip through, but those are less enjoyable for me to watch, because it's usually, if you're not watching it live and asking him questions, it's kind of like just watching him read a book, and it's not my kind of content. I love Ted, don't get me wrong.
And I want to enjoy the book myself first.
But I think all the things that we thought were going to be in there is in there for the most part. I'm just kind of curious about the ship fighting mechanics, because I saw all those WizKids minis, the ship minis at GenCon, and I talked to the guy and I'm like, I want these. I need to get back on that list where you send me things. And he's like, okay, yeah. Because
you need to get on their Pathfinder and Starfinder list too, because WizKids is doing stuff for all of them.
Well, they're just making minis. I just want minis. But specifically, I really want those ship minis. I don't know why. I just really think they're cool. And they had the playmat of the wild space, which was really cool over there. They had the Wand of Orcus at GenCon, and a new Demilich statue, which has got like the gemmed eyes and stuff. It was really cool. A lot of those, kind of like the Hand of Vecna and stuff, I was like, man, I really want that. But it's such a... at least I can say that the other stuff I can use potentially in a game. That literally is just like, hang on your shelf. And I don't know if I necessarily want like a giant beholder head like on my wall or something, but maybe.
I want one hanging behind me, maybe.
Like
it's a disco ball.
Yes, but Spelljammer comes out on Tuesday the 16th, I believe, so next week. So
yeah, I checked my store yesterday. Didn't have anything. I thought I saw some people posting pictures that their stores had something on the shelf already, individual books, but I just didn't understand that because I hadn't seen any news where we could buy the books individually. I thought it was all just box set stuff. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know what they were seeing or what they were showing. They showed pictures. I know it was real. They was like, "Here, I'm holding it."
Yeah.
I was like, "Man, how'd you get your hands on that?" And they had them behind glass cases at GenCon. I saw a couple booths that already had their copies.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they had them sitting behind a glass case in their area. And I thought, oh, okay, so they probably got them early. And then all of a sudden, everybody was getting home from GenCon and they had them, or just before they left for GenCon, that type of thing. You know, Jenny had her books, you know, and then there was like tons of people I'd never even seen on YouTube are like, hey, I got my books from, I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
What? I've never even seen your channel anywhere. What?
Yeah. Well, and I don't know how you get on that list. I've talked about it before. It's
all about who you know, I guess.
It really is, I guess. So.
It's not based on size, for sure. Because I saw some guys with some super small channels. Just
no,
like,
it's like, you're a friend or who you know or something like that. I'm not really sure. The Venture Mask, yeah. But I'm excited for Spelljammer. I think it'll be really cool. And although I'm gonna get the book. I'm kind of busy on next week, so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get the physical book on Tuesday, but I'll definitely read it on D&D Beyond, and then probably drive down to my store and grab it at some point. We occasionally read Dragon Plus magazine.
Yeah, in the beginning.
I think you ran a fun Lathander adventure or something out of it.
Yeah.
So and arguably Dragon Plus magazine, the entire thing was a giant advertisement. Like the articles were an article about something that you should buy, intermixed with actual advertisements. I get it, but there was a couple of interesting articles and stuff, and I know like Sly Flourish wrote for Dragon Plus magazine. Well, Wizards just shut it down. Like and I don't think this is I don't think this is because like viewership was down. I think part of this is they acquired D&D Beyond. And now if you notice, a lot of the digital things that they were doing with Dragon Plus magazine, I think they're now going to just do with D&D Beyond that already has a built-in user base, so they can send emails and say, hey, here's this. And so there's really no reason to kind of have this anymore. But it was just like a nice little, not nice, but it was very quiet. It was just like, and goodbye. And like a little blip on the very last one, which was the final issue, was Dragon Plus 41. And they're just like, and we're done. And it was like, okay.
Thank you.
So I don't know. Thoughts about that, sir? Like,
yeah, I think I'm sure they believe they're beyond the size of needing a magazine to help generate the advertisement like they were in the 80s and 90s. Magazines were kind of the internet in some ways. Everybody would go buy magazines to see the newest stuff coming out, or even because you did want to look at some of the ads because it had the new stuff that was kind of new miniature lines. So you were interested in
the J.C. Penney catalog delivered to your house, so you could look at things to buy. Yeah.
And then the internet slowly has, killed magazines for the most part, even though there are still those out there. And I just think that they're kind of like, well, we already advertise. We've got movies out. We've got video games. I mean, they don't really need a small magazine set to do it. Although I think it'd have been cool if they'd have kept it just as we support zines. We support this medium still existing because it was a thing that helped this genre in the past stay alive during all that time. It helped role-playing games be relevant. But I understand if somebody's just, checking boxes off a column and saying this costs this much, or this, we could save this much money and we could spend it over here in something else. Then
well, and this was all digital too. And so how many people were
maybe they had traffic
actively
numbers that weren't
like, I bet the traffic numbers were not that good. So, I don't know. We'll see. Like, I know their app was atrocious. Like it was really, really bad. And I always ended up reading it in a browser because they just didn't have the people there.
Yeah, and they were doing the swipe thing that was just like trying to make it sort of like it would be a tablet thing or a phone thing versus it would be, but it never really dove into that. So
yeah, I think it was D&D Beyond, in all honesty. Like that was if there was any like back and forth, I think the nail in the coffin was we have a better platform to send out the exact same stuff, and so they can still hire those people to write articles, but now they're fun blog posts or emails, and they'll reach a lot more people. And so
and it was the written article version, which they have a web page that does written article versions. And so it wasn't about videos, and it wasn't about YouTube and Twitch streams and that kind of stuff. It was truly author-based stuff and art, author-based art, and then they have all kinds of places for that. So for sure.
Yep. I hear you enjoy Matt Colville's stuff, and he came out with a monster packet for Flea Mortals.
Yeah, so those of us that have backed it, because you've backed it, so I'm sure you did see this. He put out a really good video about here's the first kind of testing packet that people can take a look at. Mortals 1 has, they started out with some orcs, 8 different types of things in there that make them interesting and different to play. I think he does a good job about saying, hey, these all sound really cool, but you would make a huge mistake if you tried to just put all 8 in your game immediately. He says, like, the mechanics are different. You don't want to be fumbling around in your game. Add 1 or 2, but use normal stuff that won't slow your game down at first until you get used to them before just dumping all these new rules and these new things that are happening. So you don't overwhelm yourself in a because you'd even made that kind of comment last time we were talking about backing it. You were like, well, if they're complicated and there's a lot of stuff they have to do, that's just harder for me to remember all that stuff and run
and in the end of the day, like, do I want to make my DM life harder? And I don't. Like, I really don't. And I am someone who has actively played 4th edition, and the higher level we got, the more like confusing it was and things like that. Yeah. And you had like, okay, I've got an orc band, and it was like, well, I've got my orc, like my orc witch and my orc shaman and my orc spell stingers and my orc warriors, and then you had to remember which one was which, and it was just and this feels very much like that design, but I haven't played it. But I do like the fact that, and something I liked about 4th edition is I could say, here's a whole bunch of orcs, and then they all start attacking, and then your party is just like, wait a minute, what's that guy in the background? Does he look different? And you're like, he does. He's got like, I don't know, like a shaved head or something. And they're like, oh, I bet he's a spellcaster. And so not all orcs are just orcs mathematically. And it could be kind of interesting. So I don't know. But I feel like I could also do that on the fly. Like I could just have an orc warrior, and then I'll give him the sleep spell. And I don't know. But sometimes you need to be told that those rules are available. And so this could be a really good book.
Yeah. And it's not just that is in there. They also put in things like for the orcs, there's a pet that you can have. There's stuff if you're an orc player. There's an orc companion that they added in. That's somebody that could, group up with the party and fight along or be an NPC.
Well,
so they're
and that
adding
goes back to
a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that goes back to the Beast Heart, which I thought was really cool, which is a class I really liked. And they're really bundling it with this book. Like, not only are a lot of these monsters just, fun monsters to have, but it correlates. If you're going to use that class, or if you want to use those NPC mechanics with monsters, it can really benefit you. So that's cool.
Yeah. And so I like the idea that it's an example of they are giving us more monster blocks and more, different ways to use maybe creatures that we're already familiar with, but they're giving us stuff that's new too. And they're giving us stuff that isn't just a monster block. They're giving us, pets, ways to play these races, ways to find those powers and use them as your orc power, those kinds of things. They're explaining the ways they can do those things. So they're adding a lot of stuff that even a player might pick this book up and go through it and say, oh, there's some really cool stuff in here that I want. And so I think what they've done is Coville's captured what we've always talked about, I think, and I knew he knew it before this, even before we did. But the idea of that a book has to be good that everybody wants to buy it. It can't just be a Dungeon Master book. It can't just be a player book. It's got to be that type of book that has everything for everybody. It's got adventure stuff. It's got dungeon stuff. It's got new rules stuff. But it's got player options stuff. It's got all this stuff. And if you do that, then the book is usually really, really popular. And I think that's where they're going. They also put in there the voiceless talkers, which are kind of like they look like dudes with big octopuses as heads. And when I heard him say it, I thought, oh, they're just doing a mind flare. But they did a really good job in the artwork that when you look at them, they do seem different. They are similar in some ways, but it's not just a mind flare. It is definitely a different thing. They're called the voiceless talkers, and this adds in their psionics and their versions of, because he said that's coming out for a class for them is the talent, which is going to be a psionic class that they're going to put out. And so that's going to also add into that. They put out some environments you can use. They put out some maps. They had somebody build music so you can have background music for some of these things too. So there's somebody producing. So there's like a little bit of everything in this release, which just goes to show that there's possibly going to be a little bit of everything with the book in all the stuff they released. And he even said in it, he says, we're doing all this stuff. Maybe it's too much. Maybe people won't like all these different things and they want us to concentrate just in a certain area, but we're going to try it. We're going to take the feedback, and if it's working, we're going to keep going. If it's not, then we'll cut something out and we'll not do it.
Well, like, and the other thing, like I want to emphasize that they had the MP3s and stuff. They made some music that you could listen to kind of set the mood, and I thought that was kind of cool. But he was like, that's not like, that was, we had extra money or something to go hire someone to do that, but it never takes away from the core team finishing the book on time, kind of a thing. And then they're like, this is a way for them to like try different things, and if you like it, then it's like, oh well, we'll utilize that as a selling point next time. If you don't like it, then we tried something and you didn't like it, and it was like, okay.
He's
it's
big
just
into
a fun way to try things, and a good way to have resources to do that, you know. And when you have like Patreon and things like that, you're not trying to get a bunch of investors to get behind you so that you can have enough money to hire someone to make MP3s that bomb. Like, it's like, well, we tried it, you know, we're okay. So
and they partnered with 2C Gaming in this and created basically a way to do an endless horde mode of orcs to see how far your team could get. And you could post your time, you could put up a video of it showing your game, and then they would have a leaderboard that they could do in the Discord talking about using these orcs and how the orcs could stream in and do some things. So there's like a whole horde mode that 2C Gaming put together, which was interesting because we'd heard some gossip about 2C Gaming and stuff. And I'm just like, well, they're still doing stuff. Matt was talking about they did a great job on this, and we'll see what they are. We're still waiting on a few books to come out. We were talking like we didn't have the Web DM book yet, and I did see some updates over the last couple of days.
Yeah, I feel it was funny. We were all talking about where's the Venture Maiden book and where's the Web DM book, because it's not been like a long time, but through 2C Gaming's track record, it kind of should have been done by now, I thought. But and then through the grapevine, it was like, oh, well, I don't know if it's going to. And then literally, I think the next day, I got email updates that were like, hey, we're just waiting on a few pieces of art. And, you know, and we got to get the printers ready and things like that. And I was like, oh, okay. So, I don't know. They're moving forward.
So, but I like the idea of a horde mode, like I always wanted like a zombie mode. I was just thinking
doing
that
with a zombie would be kind of cool.
Yeah,
and have the adventure be, you need to get from, you know, base A to base B. There's not an option to kill all the zombies.
All of them.
So you have to just figure out what's the best way to get through there. So
so I like that idea, and I think they're like minion based, just to show you how minions can work, where I think they hit normally, but they have 1 hit point. So if you're just doing cool stuff, you feel strong and you feel super, but they're minions and they're endless and they're going to keep coming. So it's not just we'll kill them all, you know. It was like you have to focus on your objectives. You have to get there and find ways to complete your objectives quickly while being surrounded and trying to be drugged down by, you know, this horde. So I thought that was kind of cool, and I'm excited for it. It shows that they've been working on it. I've always liked the design philosophy they go through. I like how he talks about they sit around a table and they talk about, well, what's unique about this creature? What are we going to do with this creature that's different, that we're not just rehashing what other people have done? What would make it an interesting thing? What's the thing behind it that could get people excited to want them to be in their campaign? I like that idea. I like that. I love the idea of that type of meeting when you're talking about creating monsters or creatures that you're going to add to a role-playing game. That sounds like a really fun meeting to me. Like, please, I want to do those meetings all day long.
Yeah.
That's the kind of meeting I want.
100%. And also something that we didn't talk about with MCDM is that there was another update that is it Kingdoms and Warfare? Or is that the first one? Strongholds and Followers was the first one.
Strongholds, Followers, first one.
The physical book of Kingdom and Warfare should be done soonish. I got the message about their printing mistake that they had, and they were like, oh, like, we can't really, I mean, we could reprint all of them, but like, here's what it's going to cost, and here's all of this. So one of the fixes, or one of the options, was to get a sticker, which I guess is something that they do a lot in the publishing world, because it's such a waste of resources to print an entire book, and there's like one thing wrong on one page, you know? So they have these really nice glossy stickers that kind of seamlessly fall in. You'll still be able to tell that it's there because it's extra material or something, but that's what I opted for. And so I'm excited to get my book with my corrected sticker, and I'll move forward with that. Because I just want the book at this point. I'm like, I don't need it to be some fancy collector's edition thing, I guess. We have the PDF, but I like using those rules. I like having books. So
exactly, yeah. And one last thing I like about what they're doing with theirs, you just kind of nailed it on the head. Not only are you getting a physical book, we talked about this at GenCon, but you get the PDF. You get the PDF early. You get to play test the options as they're going. So this is a Kickstarter where you're involved 1 or 2 months into you signing up, you already have some of the stuff that's going to show up in the book. You already have access to things, even if they might slightly be refined. You have it's not like you're waiting a year and then it finally shows up on your doorstep and you finally can dig into it like it's a Christmas present. Like, you're getting stuff all through the process, which I really liked. And then, like me and you were talking about at GenCon, walking around, we were asking some of the vendors, hey, you got a really cool 5e edition campaign world here.
Yeah.
But do I get a PDF at the same time I buy this book? And it was crazy how many were like, no, you don't get a PDF and the book. You know, you're like, I launch your book and I want to be able to flip through it, but I also need a PDF for when I'm actually playing and sitting at the table, or I
need a PDF for when I'm at work and I can't have the book available. Come on.
I'm just surprised. You know?
So that was weird. You know, I went back to the indie RPG thing, and I ended up buying a book for my wife, and they handed me a card. They were like, here, take this and then email us your Square receipt and we'll email you the PDF. And I was like, perfect. That's awesome. And, like, you know, they're small enough that they can do that, but yeah, that ether world looked really cool. And they were like, yeah, no PDFs. And I was like, that's a hard sell for me. I mean, I don't know if you can pull a Wizards of the Coast and be like, no PDFs kind of a thing. Yeah. So, or there is a PDF, but I have to buy the book twice, and that's always makes me sad too. So, Horde mode, the Kineticist. What is this? Oh, what's our Pathfinder? Oh, Pathfinder update. It's a podcast within a podcast. Welcome to Pathfinder.
Yeah. So Paizo put out a really cool thing. They are ready to start their play testing of their new class, the Kineticist, and they put it out on Twitter, so you can go to the website that they had set up and you can download the rules for it and you can partake in the play test and give feedback. And I thought it was a cool, a lot of people were excited about this class. A lot of people liked it from Pathfinder First Edition, and it sounds like now that's coming into Second Edition, a lot of people were really excited about it. So I thought this was a cool thing. I went through the Paizo booth while we were at GenCon, which was really cool. I did get to see the 3-foot tall goblin that you can order from their website, and he does look kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool.
To have the big 3-foot goblin there. They had lots of stuff that you could buy for all of their editions. They were still selling plenty of first edition stuff. There are plenty of Starfinder stuff, plenty of, you know, Pathfinder Second Edition.
Yeah,
they made
Paizo
announcements
has a
while they were
huge
there.
area, so
yeah, plenty of merchandise. So if you're into the whole Paizo Pathfinder ecosystem, there's a lot for you to go and buy and purchase or have to choose from for your games. There is no shortage of options for that game. It is nicely supported. If you want to
spend money, you can spend money.
Fully moving on. Yeah, WizKids is building all their models. There's lots of other people that are partnered with them to bring, you know, they were talking about ships for their Starfinder, which was convenient because we have ships for Spelljammer coming out, so that could be interesting, using space maps that were similar.
Yeah,
so
they already have a couple
crossover
ships
stuff you could
because when WizKids was still sending me minis, I got a bundle of like Starfinder ship stuff, and I was like, what? And yeah, I have like a cool kind of like shellfish looking one, and then a bunch of like mechanical ships, but yeah,
so very cool. And it makes me want to play that like more and more and more, just like every time I'm reading my Pathfinder book in the rules and the Second Edition ones, I want to do more. Dark Archive is out. They announced more books that are coming out. They've got lots of adventure strings coming out. So it's an exciting time for Paizo. As much as we're a Dungeons and Dragons show, there's a big community out there for the Paizo stuff, and I'm glad I'm kind of diving and dipping my toes into it and looking at it. There's a lot of good stuff in it.
It's funny because I think, well, D&D like dominates the market, but the longer I've been into RPGs, the more I'm really enjoying. I'll say this, like, Wizards is not infallible. And so a lot of times you look at like Paizo and you're just like, well, you have like a 10th of the market share of RPGs compared to Wizards. But like, you're really making some of the better quality stuff, you know.
Real nice
and like
stuff.
And a lot of these Kickstarters, like these Kickstarters that come out, which will segue into us talking about Pangea here, is like it's the most polished, awesome looking thing, and like that Ether book was really good, or Etheria, I forget the name of it, but it was one of those like, holy cow, this is a whole beautiful world. And you could run this really with any system, but like they're leaning towards 5e because they want you to, you know, that's what everybody plays. And I'm a firm believer that we need to hold Wizards to the same standard that we're holding to all of these other people, because, with Wizards, a new book comes out and you're like, okay, like, you're not reinventing the wheel. It's fun. And then because it's integrated into D&D Beyond, you start using some of the magic items or the races or something. But then I think about a lot of the Kickstarters that I've done. It's like, well, really, we should be running this. Like, this is way cooler. And so
more new stuff is coming from other areas where I feel like Wizards of the Coast is refining or putting out stuff that was already familiar. So you want it, and it's nice to have it, but I don't feel like they're breaking new ground anywhere. Where if you open that Book of the Dead from the Pathfinder one I bought, like, I'd turn to a page and see a whole new concept I hadn't even thought of, working with undead in some way. I was like, oh, why have I never even tried this in one of my campaigns? This is so cool. Never even popped up all the games I played in Dungeons & Dragons, So there are people out there pushing those boundaries, pushing the edges. What new thing can we do? What can we do from what we normally did? I really thought Wizards, if there was my biggest complaint, not that it's a complaint, I love them, but I've always felt like they've stuck to their old stuff a little too much. Like they were, let's bring back in some of the old stuff and not change it too much, and not put a lot of brand new, never before seen things out there. Citadel, the Radiant Citadel was the first one where I was like, okay, finally, something new, something nobody's written about before. We've broken new ground here. But like all the other stuff has been like, well, these were adventures from previous editions and now we've rewritten them. Or these are areas we've explored a lot before and now we've redone it. And these were dungeons that were popular before and now we've turned those into a big campaign. So, they're just only sprinkled in some things that were new.
Like Radiant Citadel was really good because the people were so excited to be able to tell those stories. And I also think they weren't held back by, I'm going to take randomly Rime of the Frost Maiden. You have a bunch of cool people writing this really cool story, and then like the lore holds them back, or maybe the lead designer's like, well, I don't actually want it to go this way.
You've got to use the 10 towns. You've got to have
something like that, and constraints
Gate
constraints can lead to very creative answers. But something like Radiant Citadel, like those people came to Wizards and they're like, this is the story I want to tell. And I don't think they had carte blanche to do whatever they wanted, but they were able, I think with minimal interference, they were able to craft a really cool adventure.
It felt like they had definitely more room than before. So
ultimately, this kind of is just, this is my advice to everybody just in life, but make the things you want to see in the world. Don't make the things that you want that will sell. Because if you're, and it's like I've been doing a lot of YouTube stuff lately, and it's one of those things where people are like, how do I become such a popular YouTuber? Or how do I do this? And it's like, I think this show is a prime example. Like, although we have a lot of fun doing this and we're making the kind of content that we want to see and we want to consume, this show by no means has taken off. We have never been offered a sponsorship. We have never done any of this, but we continually do it because it's fun and it's awesome and we like making it. And kind of like Radiant Citadel felt like that, where they're like, we want to do it. And a lot of these Paizo books, it's just like, I love undead. It's like, okay, you're in charge of the undead book. Like, make a cool one, and they do, So it's really fun.
Really cool.
Pangea, this is what I wanted to go into. So speaking of making things just because things are really cool, we had the creator of Pangea on our show back when the Kickstarter was going on. He listens to our show, which is cool, and it's David Somerville, I believe. I should have looked it up beforehand, but but he wrote Pangea, which is prehistoric D&D 5e. So the world of Pangea is like when the universe was so new, the plane of fire was literally just down the road and in a volcano. And then it was like, as the planes were separating out the primordial energies and the prime material plane kind of became its own thing. It's a really cool idea. They finally got the PDF out to people, so the physical book we're still waiting on. But you backed this, right, or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pangea and Planebreaker, all these plane.
Well, that was the other thing. Is I was getting confused because I'm like, it's not plane. It's plane. Okay, yeah, but this is by Atlas Games. This is not Monty Cook Games, which. Boy, Planebreaker is really good. I still haven't had a chance to really sit down and read through it, but it's on. It's high on the list. I stopped reading Radiant Citadel because of Planebreaker. And now I have Pangea to PDF to go through. I really like this. The art's really good. Like, talk about another professional looking thing. We'll see when the print book comes out, but if it's anything like this, like, it looks like just a really great like 5e book, and it helps you make prehistoric characters. And instantly when I was reading through this, I was thinking, I want to have my characters get time travel stuck in the past. And so you have your modern day characters, but they have, and that would be a fun way of doing it. Like level 5, level 8, they get teleported to the past, and now it's like, this is like when the world was new, and they're just like, wait, what? And you have to like survive or go kill the god down the street in order to like gain your divine power back or something. I don't know.
Or even like we could do the core Earth thing where you travel to the center of the Earth idea, the hollow Earth thing.
The hollow Earth. This could be the center of the Earth. You're right.
I just think that would be great.
And it's not just dinosaurs. It's just it's the idea that like everything was really close. There's a lot of like raw primordial energies kind of floating around. There's new classes in this. There's new things. There's a whole bunch of rules on how to create a tribe. And how do you survive as a tribe? Like there's a reason that these dwarves and humans came together to live together, because there was safety in numbers. It looks really cool. I would love to integrate this into another campaign. Maybe after reading it, I'll be like, okay, guys, we're doing Pangea all the time. Like, it's my favorite campaign setting. I doubt that'll happen, but it's still really good. Like.
Yeah,
it's really good. Kind of like Starfinder, or not Starfinder, Spelljammer. Like, I don't know if I would run Spelljammer all the time, but I'm definitely going to integrate it into my games here and there. You start out in Forgotten Realms or something, and then you fly off to the moon by like level 7. This is a similar thing where, now that you said Hollow Earth, I think this would be great in the center of the Earth.
Yeah, and I think the key is too, all these books have been so good that we've backed, and I'm sure there's more out there that we haven't even backed or even newer out there, but when you read through some campaign books, they get you excited and they get you to want to play, you want to start a campaign. You're like, I'm reading Pangea and I'm like, okay, I want to do that. But then I was reading Planebreaker. I'm like, okay, now I want Planebreaker to come through. Like, we were doing our Tuesday night game to jump ahead a little bit, and one person's going to be gone. So the Dungeon Master said, Danimal, he said, I'm just going to do an offshoot in Waterdeep that won't really affect the main story, but if you guys are there, we can play it and go on. And he starts it off with the whole town is shaking, and I'm like, is he doing it? Is the plane breaker in the sky? And I was like, when I went outside and it wasn't that, I'm like, oh no, because that was on my brain. Like, I'd been reading that PDF. I was like, yes, plane breaker's here. I was just like, it gets you excited. Or like when I was reading the Book of the Dead or the Dark Archive for Paizo's stuff, it was like, you get excited about those things. And now you're like, I want to run this one. I want to run this. I want to run that. There's so many good things. We're getting so much good stuff and have no time to run all of it. That's the big problem. But I gotta run something. I'm dying to start running something. I keep saying it, I keep not doing it, but the excitement inside me is building and building and building, that I want to run some games again. So I gotta get something together. I gotta find some players that can meet a schedule I can be on, and I want to run like Pangea. I want to run a Planebreaker. I want to go back and I want to do some Tolas stuff. I bought that book in Tolas. Yeah. Was reading through it, and my mind was blown by the stuff that Monty Cook was putting in there. It was Tolas crazy.
I saw it for sale but I didn't want to fly home with that book. But boy, I kind of want that book. This was interesting. Well, and so I'm showing some pictures of the PDF of the Planebreaker PDF on the stream here.
Good. The cover.
The dinosaur people are pretty good, and the starlings and stuff. A lot of really cool stuff you could use. I like that tieflings are called, what do they call it? God marked. And so it's not necessarily like you're evil or something. It's just like, oh my gosh, you're very special, So I don't know. Well, I might do a more in-depth review on the channel when I get a chance, but that's Planebreaker.
Yeah, just to give you a little, and we won't go into it, table of contents, read through here. So welcome to Pangea, Clanfire and Wilderness, prehistoric characters, kinships, classes, backgrounds, equipment. Then getting into the game master part, which they separate nicely for you. So it is a player and a GM book.
Yeah. It's 370 pages.
Primal World, factions and threats, treasures, gods and monsters, appendices, all kinds of cool stuff. And I saw Atlas Games. They had a booth there, but I didn't see this book. I was
don't
looking
think it was
around
done.
at Atlas Games. I didn't see it.
And their Atlas isn't known for their RPG stuff, so they were definitely doing a lot of their other like card and board games. But yeah,
flying pterodactyls.
Yeah,
jeez.
The P is silent. Speaking of wanting to run a new game, I have some news to announce to the people that might be interested. The Banana Bunch, the Rod of Seven Parts crew. Our last game was December 2020. We are now going to return August 25th on YouTube. We're going to have most of the crew back. Brenna can't make it, but the rest of them are going to make it, and we might replace them with someone else. I'm not sure yet. But I'm going to be running... I'm going to update, and kind of like what I did with Rod of Seven Parts. I updated Rod of Seven Parts for 5e, and we kind of ran it, and it was fun. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do the Great Modron March. So that is the next one that I'm going to do. So Return of the Banana Bunch, August 25th. Mark it on your calendars, and then this will be a weekly game till whenever. Like, I don't know. I'm just excited to run something again. Like, it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. So... and then
it was crazy.
Planebreaker, I hope to incorporate into that. So
that would be good. We had a lot of discussions while we were at GenCon, having dinners or just sitting in the hotel about wanting to play games and finding the group that wants to play the game that you want to run.
Yeah.
And sometimes having the problem of I want to run something, but the players aren't into it. So it kind of brings you down a little bit, and then maybe you don't run anything, and you're like, do I even want to run something as a second choice? We had so many of those conversations, and I'm sure there's so many of you out there that are the same. The hurdle always is finding the group that wants to play the game you want to run, and then you get the home run, you knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
And it's you don't get that, or things fall apart, or it doesn't work out when it's the GM has a game in mind, but the players are kind of doing something else, or they're just not everybody's buying into the same thing, or not everybody's that drow character that they're supposed to be for a drow campaign. So
go talk to Moa.
So, we get it. Yeah, we understand.
All about this drought.
We know how tough it is. We also have that problem. Even though we have lots of people that normally we could pick from to play with, there's lots of people that have said, hey, I'll play in your games, and they have. It's still hard to find that right group for the right game that you want to play at that time.
Yeah.
So we feel you.
If you think about it, like, I'm going to use, like, Game of Thrones. Like, if somebody was like, hey, I want to run a Game of Thrones RPG game, and you're like, okay, like, I'll try it. Like, I've never read the books. I watched the show. Disappointing ending. I don't super care about that. And so I would be that apathetic player to somebody who like lives and eats and breathes Game of Thrones. And so it happens. And then after like 3 sessions, you're like, I kind of just want to go back to like the Banana Bunch. I want to be goofy. I don't want to care too much about what's happening. I just want to play games and roll dice kind of a thing. And I think that's the difference between systems and a difference between DMs and content, Like, I loved the Acquisitions Incorporated game that I played in, and I think that was the big click in my head where I'm like, I think I want every game to... Not every game, because you want to play different stuff, but, like, I love being silly. I love the idea that you're an underdog kind of like striving for something as opposed to the big hero that needs to save the world.
Yeah.
Like, I like...
Well, you got to tell this story. So we're at Gen Con, and you get to play 2 games at Gen Con. I got to play in one of them, so I'm there to experience one of them, Mazes.
Yeah.
But then the next day, you play another game, and you come back and tell me about how fun this game is. And the difference being, the game we played, we were all playing Mazes, and we mostly took it seriously, and we were trying to learn the system and learn what was going on. And it was a pretty straightforward role-playing session. Nothing crazy. It wasn't bad. It wasn't, the best thing in the world. It was right there in the middle of a normal role-playing session.
And I don't think we finished the maze, right? Like, we had to leave because of time.
Yeah, like one guy left or something, so we sped up at the very end.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we just kind of like made it fast so we could fight the boss and leave. Yeah.
But then, so you get the kind of apathetic, or at least we're not all clicking together. We're just random strangers, which you're going to get in a Gen Con game anyways. We're random strangers. Then you go and play in a game, and this has been my experience when I ran games, hit and miss, is all of a sudden you get in the group that's exactly your humor style or exactly the game you want to play. And then you don't stop talking about all of the fun that you have and the jokes and the memes and the stuff you guys are doing, the craziness in it, because everybody's kind of gelling, you know?
And you're right. That's exactly it. I'm now friends with the guy that I did that. So I played in Mutant Crawl Classics at Gen Con, and I could not stop talking about this game because I had so much fun. One of the guys from Goodman Games ran a Mutant Crawl Classics game for us. And we had an older guy, and I don't want to stereotype, but kind of the grognard, and he had played Pathfinder, and he was getting into DCC, so he signed up for this game, but he was very much of the mindset of like, I want to win. And then the other two people at the table, and myself, so the other three of us, we were just like, we have played these games before, we're like, this is hilarious, it's so funny. There were a lot of jokes like the computer downloaded information into our mind so we knew how to pilot a submarine, and then I was just like, I know kung fu, and the guy was like, I was gonna make that joke, and we were laughing back and forth. That game TPK'd, like everybody died. I was the last one alive, and I said, hey, I've got this laser pistol because I had a laser gun. I'm like, can I set it to self-destruct to kind of go out in a blaze of glory? And then I ended up rolling a natural 1 on my artifact check. And he's like, well, you're kind of like, how do I do that? And you shoot yourself in the head and it's all over. And I'm like, this was the best ending possible. And even our judge, our DM, was a little like, are you guys okay? Like, I'm sorry you TPK'd, but I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life. Like, it was the funniest thing that I've ever done. And those people I played with really cool. So you're absolutely right. Like, when you find the right people and it clicks, it's like, this is the most fun. But our Mazes game was kind of like, okay.
It was a normal game.
Like,
Most of us weren't playing characters, I think, too. Most of us were just learning the rules, playing, and trying to do what we could. Whereas like the other ones sounded a lot like people got into their characters. Like the one thing that we were at lunch and you were talking about, one of the people played a beastkin.
Yeah, she was a pig,
and she was making lots of She's
just like, Wilbur, what? And like she was so funny. Like,
so just really leaning into what their character is sometimes can be super fun. And don't get me wrong, I'm one of those people that love tactical games. Like I take my combat serious in Dungeons and Dragons at times, but it is also fun to have the acting cure. It is also fun to have that stuff, or just to find the people that have that right amount of humor that you're wanting. So if you're a serious player, find a serious party and a serious DM. If you're a fun, whimsical player, find that fun, whimsical DM and that fun, whimsical party, because I think you're going to have the most fun with that type of group where everybody's finishing their sentences. Each of you are trying to get to the punchline of the joke first, or that serious group where you could talk about that story about how hard the DM tried to kill you with all this stuff, but you guys pulled it out with great group synergy and group stuff. And it was so cool when I shot that arrow and it killed that guy, and it was cool. But it wasn't, there was no funniness in it, but that's when you're with the group that you have a really good synergy with. So try to find that. Don't underestimate the idea of finding a game that fits what that play style you like to play. Aki is always fun. I love Aki so much.
That is my humor. So it's just like, I love stuff like that.
Yeah. Jerry Holkins and them crack me
so good
up.
It was so funny. The one of the latest Penny Arcade comics is Mike Krahulik talking to his son, and his son's just like, man, D&D's really taken off. And he's like, yeah, you know why, son? And it's like, oh, Critical Role? Well, yeah, but also, Dimension 20? Yeah, but, the McElroy brothers in the Adventure Zone? Well, yeah, but before all of them, there was something called Ack Inc. that your dad was... It was really funny that it's just like, oh, you're right. They have all taken off, and Ack Inc. is kind of... I mean, they still own those characters, but like I think it's just harder to do con games and stuff. So that's our show, because I have to go watch a young Master Jorphdan run
Padawan
around, and we need to do some yard work today. It's very exciting. But anything else before we leave, sir? I know you probably played a game.
That is it. We played our normal game. It was just a side thing. Bought lots of stuff at Gen Con. If we need filler and some other show, we'll show that stuff off.
Yeah.
big announcements for next week. So I imagine next week's show is going to be packed full
Or
of stuff too.
lots of stuff next week. I did start watching My Hero Academia because of you, and it's fun. But you bought a couple of games about that, like a card game. So I'll say this, Lucian, if you do want to make a video of like your GenCon haul, you can, and we can upload it to the channel and like put it on here. So yeah, it'll be fun.
Cool.
I was flying, so I didn't buy as many things, but I got a couple of books and then some dice because I always get dice. And for me, it was just a lot of like hanging out and playing games and stuff. I did do True Dungeon for the first time. And that was
we
really
need
exciting.
that experience.
We need to talk about
time.
That too.
Put that on the notes.
Yeah. That's our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. We will be back next week with a very special Saturday morning D&D show. Until then, take care, everybody.